Habitat and Predator Management Month. As it's right here, the last couple of years, the Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks has made February Habitat and Predator Management Awareness Month. So today we're kicking it off by talking about the importance of active management, and that is so important. We'll get to that, but we got a lot of things we got to talk about. First of all, Adam Butler is here with us. Fresh, getting ready for turkey season's right around the corner. You can't wait. He's licking his chops right now.
It's already feeling like spring. You know, we're not even to the end of winter yet, and cardinals are calling.
Look,
flowers are blooming.
Super Bowl's over. The cars will be rolling in Daytona. The winter's almost over. That's a good thing. Major Chris Reed is here with us, as always, looking dapper as he's dressed up, ready to go.
Well, I always appreciate that.
He's got on his uniform. Man, look at him.
Hey,
dapper.
If only they could see. I just went to the dentist, too, so my teeth are all shiny and clean.
But his uniform.
Man.
And Houston Havens is here with us as well. He's the Waterfowl Program Coordinator. So we got a lot to do. Now, what in the world is this? Now, folks, I don't know if we got it linked up yet. We're trying. Rhino's working. He does? Okay, Rhino's got it up. It's on our Facebook group right now. And if you want to look at this thing, this alien, this Chupacabra, this Chupacabra that was found, it blew up on social media on Saturday, right? This is
tens of thousands of shares, I think.
Yes, literally.
Right.
Literally, it's amazing what people will get behind.
Now, this old boy shot this thing or just found it?
I don't know if I know the full story.
It looked like it had a extra hole in it from what it was born with.
I'm sure the hunter or whomever it was a little afraid. And you can tell in the picture, you know, the guy holding it wearing gloves.
Well, I would be too.
Right. They're just missing the white radioactive suits walking around, you know, like came from Area 51.
Okay. Now, for those of y'all who don't know, there's a legend out there, and it's basically, I think it goes to Texas, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Isn't that where
Texas, Mexico, somewhere.
Texas, Mexico, where it's a blood-sucking animal, a hairless blood-sucking animal that will go and suck the blood out of cows and kill them.
Chupacabra.
The Chupacabra. And so what do we know about this thing? Where was it? Do we know where it was taken, where it was found?
It says around Papa Creek, yeah.
Where's that at? What county?
Like Montgomery, I think, Chip. Yeah, isn't that right? So. Yeah.
So
Winona area.
We're going to go with I hate to bust the bubble.
What's the scientific name for Chupacabra?
You know, we don't have documentation of the Chupacabra in existence. So we're going to go with the official Wildlife Department response. There is going to be it's a raccoon that has a particular form of the mange called alopecia, where you basically lose all your hair.
Huh.
And I mean, you can.
Well, it's definitely.
You take all the hair off of any critter, and they're going to look pretty weird. But if you look closely at the pictures, you know what gives it away to me is the hands and the feet. You know, raccoons kind of have that almost a human-like hand. You know, 5 digits. You know, they can grab stuff like we can. So that's what does it for me. But it is pretty scary.
Now, and of course,
it looks like what Chupacabra. Like if you Google the picture, it does look like one.
Well, Chupacabras, nobody's ever really seen one, so that's the problem. We don't really know what one is. No one has ever seen one.
And I think the real Chupacabra legends, they're supposed to be able to fly, right? Can't they fly or something?
Probably at night.
All of the animals that they find that they think are a Chupacabra are some type of animal that is suffering from the mange.
Right.
From time to time, and that's basically what they feel like this is as well.
So my understanding of the story is an actual veterinarian looked at this creature and determined it was a raccoon.
Creature.
It has a special form of the mange.
In the outdoors.
Yep.
A creature. Well, it's interesting. If you want to learn more about it, you want to see it, the Facebook group, you can go to the JT Show Facebook group. We've got it up there. We've linked it off the department over there in Chipster and what they've got going on with the department's Facebook group as well. So there you go. All right, CWD, gentlemen, anything new on the horizon?
So, we are up to 11 confirmed positives. I think a couple of those came back, got the final verdict last week. So we're up to 5 in Marshall County, 3 in Benton County, and if hunters have kind of kept up with the news out of Tennessee. Those are those counties that are adjacent to the Tennessee areas.
Which just seems to be infested, too.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. The one in Pontotoc and then the two original ones in Issaquena, so 11. But the good news, though, is we have actually processed 6,912 CWD samples before today.
Almost 2,000 more than what we wanted.
Right, and I know there were actually some in the office this morning they were working up. So that is just an amazing number to me. I thinking back a couple of months ago when we first started putting our objective to 5,000 samples statewide, and if you do the math on that, the amount of man hours and time that goes into that, I'll be honest, JT, I felt like that was a pretty tall order, and we've blown it out of the water and then some. So almost 7,000 samples to date. We're still asking hunters down in South Mississippi to help us out because, even though we've far surpassed our statewide objective, some of those southern counties, we've not reached our county-specific objective down there. So they've got a couple more weeks of deer hunting to go and really need their help. And I guess take this opportunity to just say thank you to the hunters.
Almost 2,000 more than what we wanted.
Right. I know there's a lot of misinformation out there about the department going out and killing all the deer to get samples, and we've said from the get-go we don't want to have to do any of that on our own. We want to use hunter kill samples, hunter harvest, and rely on those for the bulk of the samples, and that is the bulk of those samples. Our staff do pick up some roadkill samples and some responding to sick deer, but the vast majority of that 7,000 are going to be from hunters, and so we really, really appreciate their efforts and shouldering that load for us. So,
well, we talk about this, and 11 deer, we get it with what 8 of those coming from the majority of them coming from counties that border Tennessee.
Right.
I would say that's not. I would say it could be a lot worse news. Wouldn't you agree, Major Reed?
Yeah, it could be. It could always be worse.
We could be dealing with what Tennessee's dealing with.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
It definitely, if you look at the map, it definitely looks like that area, that positive area, the bulk of it, the center of it is in Tennessee, and these few that we're getting in our counties are kind of the embers off the edge. So we don't have as big a problem as our neighbor to the north does. But we are being diligent, and like I said, 7,000 samples so far this year. With a little bit more time to go.
We had some meetings last week at the end of the week to discuss, looking forward to next year, because this is an ongoing process. Trying to, we've heard some stuff from the public and from hunters, and we're trying to take that into consideration. With more sites, more opportunities to gain more samples, because we still need to be diligent in taking samples and trying to figure out what we're looking like and where we stand on this.
Well, there you go, and we've got that going on. All right, turkey draw hunts are open, signing up all the way to February 15th, right?
Yep, well, those are still open. We encourage people to apply. You've got till February 15th. You can put in with a partner, so that's going on. Also, we just want to make a FYI for hunters. We have made a fairly significant framework change on a couple of WMAs with turkey hunting this year. We've got 5 areas that will not open until April the 1st, and those are Malmason, Choctaw, Marion County, Mason Creek, and Little Biloxi. And so hunters need to be aware of that. That's not saying that the regular non-draw period opens. I'm talking about the regular season will not open until April 1 on those areas. And we did that in response to declining harvest kind of across our WMA system, and trying to realign the harvest framework with sort of when the peak of gobbling is, and back it up later into the nesting season, so that we're opening more closely timed with when hens are going to be nesting, as a way of trying to improve hunting on those areas. So that's something hunters need to be aware of. So those 5 areas, Malmason, Choctaw, Marion County, Mason Creek, and Little Biloxi, the season will not open until April the 1st.
All right, real quick, Bill, you got a question going to the break very quickly. What you got?
Yes, sir. What's the average age of a CWD positive deer? I've heard that they had to be almost 5 years old for it to manifest itself.
No, not the case.
Yeah, Bill, I don't know what I would have to look on what the average has been on the deer that we have found. I think what you're referring to is that it tends to be more prevalent in older deer. So the longer a deer is out there, the more likely it is to pick it up, and it has a pretty long incubation period. It's about 18 months to 2 years from the time the deer gets it to when it's showing clinical symptoms.
But we had one, and we'll talk about that.
Two of them
that
were 1.5 years old.
Yeah, 1.5 years old. So that kind of blows that out of the water. How many hunters get drawn for the same days for the turkey draw hunt on the WMA you apply for? Good question.
Yeah, I couldn't answer that right off the top of my head. I do know that the way our draw system works, it treats each WMA separately, so it's possible to get drawn for the same area on the same day, but we have tried to kind of manually minimize that over the last couple of years.
One for you, Reed. Does a hunter have to use steel shot to crow hunt? I'll listen to the answer.
No,
I didn't think so. Is CWD transferred to unborn offspring? Another good question.
I believe the current theory is that, yes, it can be.
That would explain a 1.5-year-old deer.
Yeah, and that's going a little bit beyond my knowledge. That may be a question for William McKinley, our deer program coordinator, but I'm pretty sure, yes, it can be.
All right, a lot of questions about turkey harvest reporting, supplemental feeding during the season. You should have everything ready to go for the harvest reporting.
That's right. So we sent out an email last week to all license holders about turkey harvest reporting. I know we've already spoken about that a little bit here. So it is going to be mandatory for 2019. I don't want to talk too much about it today, JT, because I know we probably will spend a lot of time on it towards the end of the month and into March.
Sure.
But we're getting questions. Folks are wanting to see the app. People may have already downloaded the MDWFP app and aren't seeing the harvest reporting feature. So I just want to let folks know that all of that will be available February 15th. If you have the MDWFP app already on your phone on February the 15th, it will automatically update. If you have your phone set to automatic updates, which I think is generally the default, it'll automatically update, and next time you look at the app, it will have the game check feature on there. So February the 15th is the date for that for folks. And then, Chris, we've also been getting a lot of questions here over the last couple of weeks about supplemental feeding as it pertains to turkeys. There's some confusion out there. Would you agree?
Yep.
On that issue? So I don't know. I don't want to dwell on it too much, but the bottom line is it's illegal to bait turkeys. Mm-hmm. It always has been.
Right.
That's addressed in 2 different places in state statute, and there's also an existing commission rule on that.
Yeah.
And
so what a lot of people have kind of just assumed, I guess, in years past when it was 100 yards distance from the feeder, you had to be 100 yards from your feeder to hunt deer. Mm-hmm. They thought also that you had to be 100 yards from the feeder to hunt turkeys, and that necessarily was not the case. That was false. That was just something that everybody kind of assumed, I guess. And then when the rule changed the last few years, where we removed the 100-yard distance requirement, people have begun to call in and say, hey, so now there's no distance on turkeys, right? And we needed to clear that up before somebody was, get a ticket because they were doing something they didn't really know they were doing wrong. And so we just clarified stuff that was already there. There's state statute, like Butler said, that you can't hunt turkeys with the aid of bait. So then the next question we get on the phone is, well, what is baiting? And you can't really define that in a law or we can never cover every if that comes up when you're dealing with law. So it's a discretionary tool that the officer has to make when he's out there working. So what we've been telling people is, that people want to feed their deer during those seasons, and that was something they were loud and adamant about. And they take a lot of time and they invest in their deer, and that's awesome. And so what we've been telling folks and advising people, they're like, if I just feed protein during this period of time during turkey season, will I be okay? That's the best way to be safe, because if you start mixing corn and grains and stuff in a feeder, and then you start seeing a turkey that's coming to this feeder, and he's, because a turkey's like a big chicken, then the person may be tempted to sit close to that feeder, because they want to get that low-hanging fruit, and it may just present an opportunity where it'd be best just to leave it just protein, not put any grain out, not add anything until after turkey season's over with. And that'll eliminate a lot of questions that may arise during hunting season for the turkey hunter. And everyone I've talked to, and Butler, I think, same way, mm-hmm. They've been okay. I just don't want to do anything. You hear it so many times with sportsmen. I don't want to do anything to get in trouble. I just want to do the right thing. And so that would be my advice on the easiest way to stay safe and not violate that regulation.
The point is the law treats deer differently than turkey. The law allows deer to be taken with the aid of supplemental feed. That's in statute, but it's not the same for turkey and never has been. And actually, the definition of baiting for turkey is much more broad. And as Chris said, there's a lot of discretion left in that. So the best thing to do is don't put any grain out during turkey season.
Yeah, that'd be the safe thing to do. We've been
the commission addressed this issue at the commission meeting. What was it, 2 weeks ago? I guess by adding adding in some language into the supplemental feeding law that particularly pertains to turkeys that really didn't do anything in and of itself. It just reiterated the existing laws that say it's illegal to bait turkeys.
We didn't add anything new. Right. There's no new regulations. These have always been in place for years now in state law that you can't hunt turkeys with bait. And the fine for that's a $100 to $500 fine. So it's not a minimal little deal.
Well, folks, if you're hunting turkey in a food plot and you're spinning corn out there, come on, guys, what do you expect to happen?
Yeah, so most folks at turkey hunt know what that means.
That's right. Say, I hear people, hey, I don't want to bait them. I just want to hold them on my place. I would say you need to be really, really careful with that.
Right. When you're enticing the bird to do something out of its normal necessary capacity, that's where you start getting in those gray areas, and people love to push the gray area. But an officer, every situation is going to be different. Officers have to make that call, and they're out there working. And they're trained to make those calls.
Got some questions. Tony says, any indication that CWD came from Tennessee? It's probably a good possibility.
Well, if you just look at the map, that would lead you that way. But I don't know, Tony, that we'll ever really know how it got there, honestly.
Houston, or Reed, for you, Stephen Reading, what does a hunter under 16 have to duck hunt? Well, duck hunting's over, isn't it? Pretty much, even the youth waterfowl's over.
Yep, just had our last, our last youth waterfowl day. But a youth under 16 just needs to be in the presence of an adult who is licensed to duck hunt in Mississippi.
Talk a little bit about that youth waterfowl camp. Go back and talk about it. How many campers did you have?
We had 13. We had 15 that signed up. 2 ended up not being able to attend, so we still had a good group of 13 kids. Ages range from 13 to 15 years old, so we had a really good time. This was our 11th year. Kind of hard to believe we've been doing it this long. So got the kids in on a Thursday evening, did a little bit of education, kind of talked about what we're going to be doing for the remainder of the weekend, and then just got them up really early and got going. And we looked up, it was Sunday lunch, and it kind of blown by. We had a really good time though.
Well, how'd the hunt go?
It was good. We had some bird numbers that actually increased, right there toward the end of the season. Some hunters had increased success during the regular season that last weekend, and that kind of spilled over into this past weekend for the youth waterfowl hunts. So had decent numbers, still not, what we would expect, not up to average for that time of year, but we were able to get the kids out. A lot of them had never duck hunted or never even shot a shotgun before. So it was
good.
Yeah, it was a good time seeing them get out and have that opportunity. Several of them did harvest their first duck. So it was
you guys go through a ton of educational stuff too. It's kind of like everything you could want to know about ducks.
Yeah,
in a 2-day crash course.
We pack it in, and as a duck hunter, you kind of forget about getting into it and the things that you had to learn with somebody, even as far down to walking in waders for the first time. We get a lot of those kids out in that water, and they've never done it before.
That's some of the most entertaining stuff. You get some of these grown folks in there, and you get to walking around just in a knee-deep field with mud on the bottom, and it's just like they're walking in a minefield. And
so luckily,
watching kids do it, I imagine, is just even more.
That's right. So luckily we had warmish weather
for
that to happen.
Wet, it wasn't.
That's right.
Life or death.
Wasn't a big danger for sure.
All right, Habitat and Predator Management Month. Why February?
Well, we've been doing, I guess, this for 4 years now. February, I'm thinking it's probably the 4th year we've made big focus in February. So it's just, I guess the timing of why. I mean, it's sort of that downtime between the end of a lot of the winter hunting seasons and before kind of fishing and spring turkey heats up. So folks are looking for things to do outdoor, but it also is timely because there's a lot of management stuff that can happen in February. Prescribed burning is a big one that goes on during February. You can prep a lot of stuff. Trapping season's still going on, so if you're thinking about predator issues, you have opportunity there. So it's just a good time to get the word out about active management, which is what we're all about. If we're going to have abundant wildlife, it takes forethought and it takes actively getting out and doing something. You can't just always just leave it up to nature to give you what you want. So this month there will be a lot of information coming out. I know in the past couple of years, we've had very regular social media type posts, website stuff, all sorts of info on active management. And I'm sure here over the course of February on the radio show we'll try to cover different topics. So today, we got Houston in the house. So I figured we could talk a little bit about some waterfowl management stuff that's pertinent for this time of year.
What can we do, Houston? Tell me what to do, man.
Well, even though waterfowl season just ended, people may not think about habitat management already starting for waterfowl hunting for the following year, but it's actually a really good time to start thinking about things while the water's still on, because depending on what you're going to be doing with that wetland area is going to kind of determine what you want to do with your water, when you want to take it off. So number one, just kind of a general rule of thumb is leave the water on as long as you can. Now, that may mean a lot of different things depending on what the area is going to be used for. If you've got it leased out to a farmer or you're farming it yourself and you're going to plant corn on it, the water's probably already coming off. So, it's going to be determined on what you have already planned. You don't want to pull your water off and then decide, okay, what am I going to do with this wetland?
So are you leaving the water on so the ducks that are here late have some habitat, or is it more to do with trying to promote a certain kind of plant out there?
Yep.
or trying to not promote certain kind of plants, I guess.
It's definitely more to do with your habitat management, but we also do get the benefit of, we've got birds that are going to be moving back north, the ones that did migrate through down to the Gulf Coast, coastal Louisiana, those areas, those birds are going to be passing through. It's a pretty critical time for wetland habitat because, just like we talked about, a lot of that wetland habitat in Mississippi most years is going to be agricultural lands. They're going to be draining that water off really soon. As soon as the duck season ends, a lot of times people are going to be pulling their boards out of their structures. And so we get a lot of calls this time of year, early to mid-February, saying, hey, ducks just showed up. Well, what we found is a lot of what's going on there is actually just a concentration because there's greatly reduced amount of habitat out there. But yeah, the drawdown or the leaving the water on principle is more to do with the habitat management, what you're trying to grow, and it's really more geared toward what we call moist soil management, which is just the manipulation of water levels and the manipulation of plant succession, which is just disturbing the soil with a disc most of the time, to try to grow what's already there naturally in the seed bank to produce waterfowl foods. It's a widely used practice up and down the Mississippi Flyway. It's something that we encourage landowners to do a lot of times if they're able to, if they have the flexibility to do that. And, it's a really good benefit for waterfowl habitat.
So the type of plants that you get back can be dictated by when you pull the water off.
Absolutely, they sure
right.
can. We're usually looking for what we call a mid to late season drawdown, which is going to be further on into April and May, and people think that's a really long time to hold our water. But what you run into when you start to pull the water off too fast and too early is you've just got a lot of time there for things to go wrong, to grow things that you're not looking for until those temperatures and conditions are better suited for your annual grasses and sedges that you're looking for to produce with moist soil management.
Got a couple of questions here, some pertaining, some not. Jason in Brookhaven, can you target practice on national forest land? Major Reed?
So. Not sure about that. That's going to be something governed by the Forest Service, but my gut response would be no.
Yeah.
Need to
You're
check
going
on
to check
that.
with that place.
I would err on no until you find out for sure from someone with the feds. Chris is in Grenada. Chris, you're on Mississippi Outdoors Radio. What can we do for you?
Yeah, I tried to call in earlier before y'all got on this topic, but I've noticed I go to IP at Redwood. I don't know if y'all know where they're at.
Mm-hmm.
Been there around Vicksburg. And it's close by the river. And I noticed on Highway 3 between Satartia and Redwood that the roadkill has gone up a lot. I mean, there was 6 in one spot this morning right there in Satartia. I mean, do y'all know what's caused it? Is it the river flooding or...
I would bet that probably has something to do with it. You know, it's been interesting, Chris, the last couple of years as we've focused in on CWD samples. You know, getting roadkill samples is a high priority for us, and you can sort of see the timing of the rut as it shifts throughout the state by where and when roadkill are showing up. That part of the world, though, we're already kind of past, you know, the peak rut over there. Could be picking up maybe a little secondary rut or something, but I bet it probably has more to do with the water. That whole South Delta area has been
water,
really
probably
flooded.
Trying to find something to eat, maybe.
Right.
Don't know, really.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Chris. That help you out, buddy?
Yeah, I appreciate it.
All right, man. Thank you very much. You know, you've seen it. There's no rhyme or reason for it. I mean, when it happens and when it doesn't happen, or where it happens. I tell you this. I've seen more deer since deer season closed.
They know, don't they?
Sure they know. We're all foolish to think that they don't know when we're in the woods and when we're not in the woods.
Well, there's data now that supports that.
Yeah. Oh, well, your place in Covington is in that south zone, isn't it? Didn't you tell us that?
You can hunt some bucks down there.
So still got a little time, maybe.
Well, my problem is the only bucks I've seen on camera have been at night. I haven't seen them during the day except once. So. And pretty much checking in with my cousin says the rut's pretty much gone. We're right there at the top of it, though. I mean, we're right there at Collins. And it goes, 49 south, 84 east. And so think about, 84 south, 49 east. So we're right there at the very tip of it. So generally we do catch that before it's all said and done. All right, we got about another minute. Houston, anything else?
Just want to mention the light goose conservation order that is in full swing now. We've gotten past our Youth Waterfowl Day, and so through March 31st, we've got this special opportunity to go out and take advantage of overabundant populations of light geese that are likely still hanging around the Delta area, in particular in the state. I know we saw a good many over our Youth Waterfowl Camp weekend. So just want to remind people that there are special methods that are allowed during this time. This is only for snow geese, Ross's geese, and the blue-phase goose, which is also a snow goose. So those really abundant large wads of white geese that you're seeing across the Mississippi Delta. The use of electronic calls is allowed. The use of unplugged shotguns is allowed, and there's no daily possession limit or no daily bag limit or possession limit for them. Hunters still do need to use non-toxic shot, this is an opportunity for them to get after them basically as long as they're here. The season goes through the end of March. Birds are usually here at least through the end of February a lot of years.